What if a simple sandwich could change someone's life? That's exactly what happened when a little girl saw an elderly man sitting alone on a park bench and decided to share her lunch with him. What she didn't know was that the man was none other than Clint Eastwood, the legendary Hollywood icon. She wasn't looking for fame, attention, or even a thank you, just a chance to spread kindness. But what happened next? 7 days later, something truly incredible unfolded, shocking everyone, including Clint himself. Stay with us as we unravel this heartwarming, unexpected chain of events that proves even the smallest acts of kindness can create life-changing miracles. Clint Eastwood is a Hollywood legend, known for his tough guy roles and timeless films. But one quiet afternoon, away from the cameras and flashing lights, he found himself in a simple park, lost in thought. That's when an 8-year-old girl, full of kindness, walked up to him and offered her sandwich, never knowing who he was or how this small gesture would change everything. What followed in the next 7 days was something no one could have predicted. Stay tuned, because this story will leave you speechless. It was an ordinary afternoon in a peaceful park, where families enjoyed picnics, children played, and joggers moved along the winding paths. Among the laughter and chatter, an old man sat alone on a bench, staring at the ground, lost in thought. His face, lined with years of wisdom and experience, carried a quiet sadness. To most passers-by, he was just another elderly gentleman enjoying the fresh air. But what they didn't realize was that this was no ordinary man. He was Clint Eastwood, one of Hollywood's most legendary actors and filmmakers. Clint had built a career playing strong, unshakable characters, men who never backed down. But today, he wasn't the fearless cowboy or the no-nonsense detective. He was just a man reflecting on life, the weight of time pressing down on him. He had come to the park for some peace, trying to escape the relentless pace of Hollywood and the expectations that came with his name. Meanwhile, just a few feet away, an 8-year-old girl named Emily was playing with her stuffed bear. Her mother had brought her to the park for a fun afternoon, and Emily was filled with the pure joy only a child could have. She skipped along the path, her eyes bright with curiosity, noticing everything around her. That's when she spotted Clint sitting alone. To Emily, he didn't look like a famous movie star. He looked like a lonely grandpa, and in her young heart, she felt the need to do something about it. She walked back to her mother, opened her lunchbox, and pulled out one of the sandwiches her mom had packed for her. Then, without hesitation, she made her way toward Clint, gripping the sandwich tightly in her small hands. As she approached, Clint looked up, surprised to see a little girl standing before him. She held out the sandwich with a big smile. "Here, mister. You look like you could use this," she said cheerfully. For a moment, Clint was speechless. He had spent his life surrounded by actors, directors, and industry professionals. But in this moment, none of that mattered. Here was a child, too young to know who he was, offering him kindness without expecting anything in return. A slow, genuine smile spread across Clint's face as he took the sandwich. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said, his voice warm but slightly rough from years of delivering iconic movie lines. Emily giggled. "Mommy says food makes everything better." Clint chuckled, nodding. "She's a smart lady." The two of them sat together for a while, chatting as if they had known each other forever. Emily told him about her favorite cartoons, her school, and how she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. Clint, in turn, shared light-hearted stories from his youth, carefully choosing tales that a child would understand. For the first time in a long while, Clint felt something shift inside him. He had spent years being admired for his work, but this was different. This wasn't about fame, success, or box office numbers. It was about connection, pure, simple, and real. After a while, Emily's mother called her back, and she jumped up, waving at Clint. "Bye, mister. Hope you feel better." As she ran off, Clint sat there, holding the sandwich, a strange feeling washing over him. He had come to the park to clear his mind, to be alone. Instead, he had been reminded of something far more important. Kindness, given freely, had the power to change a person's day, or maybe even their life. Little did he know, this small moment was just the beginning, because in the next 7 days, something incredible was about to unfold. something that would touch not only his heart but the hearts of many others. Clint Eastwood sat on the park bench long after Emily had left, holding the sandwich she had given him. For years, he had been surrounded by fame, fortune, and power, but none of that had touched him the way this little girl's simple act of kindness did. It wasn't just the sandwich. It was the innocence, the sincerity, and the reminder that the world still had goodness in it. That night, as he sat in his quiet home, Clint couldn't shake the feeling that this moment had meant more than just a random encounter. He had spent decades making films that told powerful stories, but now he had become part of one, and something inside him told him he needed to act. The next morning, Clint picked up the phone and made a few calls. He asked his assistant to find out who the little girl was. He didn't know her last name, didn't know where she lived, just that her name was Emily, and she had been at the park with her mother. It was a long shot, but if anyone could track someone down, it was Clint Eastwood's team. Meanwhile, Emily had gone about her usual routine, completely unaware that her small act of kindness had left such an impression on the Hollywood legend. To her, she had simply done what she thought was right, helped someone who looked like they needed a little joy. But while Emily was blissfully unaware, the wheels had already started turning in ways she couldn't imagine. A few days later, Clint received a call from his assistant. They had found Emily's mother through a mutual connection at a local community center. Her name was Sarah, a single mom working 2 jobs to provide for her daughter. She had no idea that the man her daughter had given a sandwich to was one of the most famous actors in history. Clint didn't hesitate. He wanted to meet them again, not as a celebrity, but as someone who had been moved by their kindness. He arranged for a small, private meeting at the same park where they had first met. When Emily and her mother arrived, they were shocked to see Clint waiting for them. Emily, as cheerful as ever, ran up to him. "Hey, mister, you're here again," she said excitedly. Clint chuckled. "I am, and I wanted to thank you properly." Emily tilted her head. "You already said thank you." Sarah, standing behind her daughter, looked confused. She had recognized Clint immediately, but didn't understand why he wanted to see them. Clint smiled and looked at Sarah. "Your daughter reminded me of something I had forgotten, how powerful a simple act of kindness can be, and I wanted to return the favor." Sarah was still trying to process what was happening when Clint handed her an envelope. She opened it and gasped. Inside was a fully paid scholarship for Emily's education, covering everything from school tuition to extracurricular activities for years to come. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Clint kneeled down to Emily's level. "You gave me a sandwich when I needed kindness. Now, I want to give you something in return. An opportunity to chase your dreams." Emily's face lit up. "Really? I can go to any school I want?" Clint nodded. "Absolutely." Sarah wiped her tears, overwhelmed by the generosity. "Mr. Eastwood, this is too much. We can't accept." Clint raised a hand gently. "It's not too much. It's just kindness coming full circle." But this was only the beginning. News of Clint's act of generosity quickly spread, and soon, more people began stepping forward to help. Donations poured into local charities, and other children in need started receiving educational support. All because an 8-year-old girl had decided to share her lunch. What started as a small act of kindness had now turned into a movement, one that was about to grow even bigger in the coming days. After Clint Eastwood's incredible gesture, Emily and her mother were still in shock. What had started as a simple moment of kindness in the park had now turned into something neither of them could have ever imagined. Emily, in her innocent way, didn't fully grasp the magnitude of what had happened. She was just happy she could go to a good school and that her park friend was happy too. But for Sarah, the weight of it all was overwhelming. She had been struggling for years, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, constantly worrying about bills, rent, and most of all, Emily's future. The idea that one of the biggest Hollywood legends had not only noticed them but also changed their lives overnight was something out of a movie. But as she would soon realize, the story was far from over. The news spread quickly. A bystander at the park had taken a few photos of Clint and Emily's interaction, and once the story leaked, it quickly gained traction. Clint Eastwood, touched by little girl's kindness, changes her life forever. An 8-year-old girl's small act of kindness sparks a movement, Hollywood legend pays it forward after a simple sandwich gesture. The headlines were everywhere. News anchors discussed it, radio stations covered it, and soon, millions of people around the world knew about Emily and her simple yet powerful act of kindness. But what no one expected was just how deeply this story would resonate with people. Thousands of strangers from all over the world flooded Sarah's inbox with messages of support. Some shared their own stories of struggle, others sent gifts and donations, and many just wanted to express how much Emily's kindness had inspired them. Sarah was overwhelmed. She never sought attention or charity. She had simply raised her daughter to be kind. But now, kindness was coming back to them in ways she never imagined. As the story continued to spread, it reached the eyes and ears of Hollywood's elite. Talk show hosts invited Clint Eastwood to speak about his experience, and when he did, he made sure to keep the focus on Emily and the message of kindness. "This little girl reminded me of something so simple yet so powerful," Clint said in an interview. "In this world, we get caught up in our own struggles, our own lives. But sometimes a small act, like sharing a sandwich, can mean more than we realize. She gave me something that day, and I just wanted to return the favor." Inspired by Clint's words, other celebrities began to take action. Famous actors, musicians, and philanthropists reached out to help in their own ways. Some donated to children's education funds, while others started initiatives to encourage small acts of kindness. A well-known film producer even announced that he was developing a short film inspired by Emily's story, hoping to spread the message even further. Emily and her mother were invited to several talk shows, where they were treated like heroes. But despite all the fame and attention, Emily remained the same sweet, humble girl she always was. When asked how she felt about everything, she simply said, "I just wanted to make him happy." And that was the beauty of it. She hadn't done it for attention, money, or recognition. She had simply followed her heart, and in doing so, had changed not just Clint's life, but the lives of many others. But the impact of this story wasn't just felt in Hollywood. It reached small communities across the country and even the world. Inspired by Emily, schools started launching kindness projects, encouraging students to perform small but meaningful acts of generosity. One elementary school in Texas started a Lunchbox Love program, where children were encouraged to share meals and write kind notes to classmates who might need a little extra support. A bakery in New York began offering free meals every Sunday, inspired by Emily's simple gesture. Even in other countries, people started sharing their own versions of the story, proving that kindness was universal. A local businessman in Emily's town, deeply moved by the story, approached Sarah with an incredible offer. He wanted to give her a stable job with a good salary, allowing her to spend more time with Emily without worrying about finances. For the first time in years, Sarah felt like she could breathe. Emily's act of kindness had started something much bigger than anyone had anticipated. It was no longer just about one sandwich. It was about the reminder that even the smallest actions could create waves of change. Just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak, Clint Eastwood had one final plan in mind, something he had been working on behind the scenes. He had already changed Emily's life with the scholarship, but he wanted to give her something even more special, an experience she would never forget. And in just a few days, the world would witness something truly magical unfold. Because Clint Eastwood was about to give Emily the surprise of a lifetime. The world had already been touched by the incredible story of Emily and Clint Eastwood, but what no one knew was that Clint had one final surprise planned, one that would change Emily's life forever. While the media frenzy continued and people around the world shared their own stories of kindness, Clint had been working quietly behind the scenes. He had already provided Emily with a scholarship and helped Sarah find a stable job, but he wanted to do something even more personal, something that would inspire Emily for the rest of her life. One afternoon, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end introduced himself as Clint Eastwood's assistant. "Clint would love for you and Emily to join him for a special event this weekend," he said. Sarah, still in disbelief over everything that had happened, hesitated. "A special event?" "Yes," the assistant continued. He didn't want to say too much, but he insisted something Emily will never forget. Sarah agreed, and that Saturday, she and Emily were driven to a location they hadn't been told about in advance. When they arrived, they were stunned. It was a massive Hollywood film studio. Emily's eyes widened as she stepped out of the car. "Mom, look. It's like a movie set." A staff member greeted them and led them through the gates. Sarah was still trying to process everything when she saw Clint standing in the middle of the set, smiling as they approached. "Welcome to Hollywood," he said with a grin. Emily ran up to him, beaming. "Is this where they make the movies?" Clint nodded. "That's right. And today, you're going to be a part of one." Sarah gasped. "What do you mean?" Clint gestured toward a film crew setting up nearby. "I wanted to do something special for Emily, something that would remind her just how powerful kindness can be. So, we're making a short film about her story." Emily's mouth dropped open. "A movie? About me?" Clint chuckled. "Not just about you, but about the kindness you showed that day in the park. I want people to see how one small act can create a ripple effect." Sarah was speechless. I don't know what to say." Clint placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Just say yes." Emily, too excited to contain herself, turned to her mother. "Mom, can we? Please." Sarah laughed, wiping a tear from her eye. "How could I say no to that?" Over the next few days, Emily got to experience something most kids could only dream of. She met actors, watched directors in action, and even got to be in a scene herself. Clint made sure she was involved in every step of the process, letting her see firsthand how movies were made. But the most touching moment came when Emily saw the final scene being filmed, a recreation of the exact moment she had handed Clint the sandwich in the park. Watching it play out on the screen, she realized just how much that small gesture had meant. When the film was finished, Clint arranged a special premiere night just for Emily, Sarah, and a small group of friends and family. As they watched, tears filled their eyes. At the end of the movie, Clint turned to Emily and said, "This is your story, and I hope it inspires millions more to follow in your footsteps." But Clint wasn't done yet. At the end of the premiere, he announced that he was donating all proceeds from the short film to children's education programs and charities that supported struggling families. Emily had not only changed Clint's life, she had changed the lives of thousands of children across the country. Sarah hugged her daughter tightly. "You see, sweetheart, one small act of kindness really can change the world." Emily smiled, looking up at Clint. "Thank you for making this so special." Clint chuckled. "No, thank you for reminding me what really matters." As they left the premiere, Emily's story continued to spread, inspiring millions around the world to believe in the power of kindness. And for Clint, that little girl had given him something far greater than a sandwich. She had given him hope. What started as a simple act of kindness, a little girl offering a sandwich to a stranger, turned into something extraordinary. Emily's generosity not only changed Clint Eastwood's life, but also created a ripple effect that touched millions worldwide. From scholarships to Hollywood films, her small gesture proved that kindness has no limits. Clint didn't just thank her with words, he made sure her story lived on, inspiring others to do the same. So, what about you? Could your simple act of kindness be the next to change a life? If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Robert's Story for more incredible real-life stories.